Hello, this is Killican, and with the insanity of an election and everyone and their mothers posting something political, I figured it's time for a change in pace. This is going to be a bit of a departure from the norm for my channel. Normally I stick to games and movies, but now I'm taking a look at thriller novels. Something I've been meaning to do for more than half a year now is call some attention to one of my favorite authors, the late, great Jack Higgins. The man that even another departed thriller legend, Tom Clancy, consented to feed to, calling him the true master of thrillers. Indeed, Higgins and Clancy's stories are often similar, in that they often involve spies and special forces soldiers on missions, though Higgins managed to not bog his stories down in drawn-out info dumps on the fine details of tactical operations. What strikes me about the 1999 novel Pay the Devil, which I managed to read through in 2 days, yeah, it was that hard to put it down, is as much the setting as the hero. Most of Higgins' thrillers are set either in World War II or the Cold War. This one is set at the end of the American Civil War and the beginning of the Irish Revolutionary Movement in the mid-1860s. Confederate Army doctor turned cavalry colonel Clay Fitzgerald had had his fill of blood and carnage and abandoned the Confederate Army as it crumbled in defeat at Appomattox, only to find he had inherited an estate from his grandfather in Ireland. With his country destroyed and public opinion against him, he decides to at least pay a visit. He gets there to find the Irish people starving and living in absolute squalor, with uncaring, sometimes villainous, English landlords looming over them, unsure if they even want to make things better for their underlings, or if it would be more profitable just to let them all starve. Fitzgerald is enraged by this and begins to secretly don his old Confederate uniform with a black scarf to cover his face, mimics an Irish accent, and becomes something akin to an Irish version of Zorro. Attending a lavish English party and overhearing that one English lord likes to kidnap and force himself on half-starved, underaged Irish girls, he rides off to the rescue, meting out his own brand of justice with his fists and a Colt Dragoon revolver, tipping rebels off about imminent ambushes, and inadvertently helping to spark what became known as the Fenian Revolution, which later brought about the Irish Republican Army and Ireland's independence. With all the twists, turns, and gotcha moments a thriller can offer, plus a particularly incendiary climax. Now, I won't do spoilers here, but it's a real page-turner, and I highly recommend it. Although I will give a word of caution to any SJWs out there, this book will likely offend. Featuring a gallant hero who rides in on a horse to save damsels in distress, himself a former Confederate soldier, who is neither abusive nor bigoted towards his former slave and confidant. In fact, his manservant proves a helpful fighter and medic in his own right. In short, if you're so politically obsessed and your mind so poisoned against the Confederates as to see them only as caricatured, cartoony villains on par with German National Socialists, you probably will not like this book. Fitzgerald's love interest is half Hindu Indian, the daughter of some enlightened colonialist, who is spirited, rebellious, and independent without being made artificially physically stronger than the male villains. She is also caring and compassionate to children and the sickly, so if such classical femininity offends you, you won't like her, especially since her hero and love interest is essentially her white savior, if you will. The local parish priest is good and sincere in his faith and belief, and aids our hero whenever he can. He isn't a smirking, duplicitous informer, nor does he fall victim to the recent trope of the priest turning out to have certain unsavory obsessions involving underage persons. Plus, a colorful family of Irish rebels who embrace their toxic masculinity against what is openly referred to in the story as, quote, progress. Of course, haters of the British Empire will find the villainous landlord matches their caricatured image of Britain to a T, and his lackey, who just so happens to share my last name, is portrayed as every bit the two-dimensional, self-serving misanthrope that SJWs imagine any black American with the audacity not to vote Democrat to be. No doubt it would be very impossible to make this a movie nowadays, what with wokeness still lingering like a stubborn STD. But one can always hope. Heck, Higgins' books have been made movies before, such as The Eagle Has Landed and A Prayer Before Dying, and even some were made into made-for-TV films that by the way, did not capture Higgins' Irish anti-hero Sean Dillon correctly at all, recasting him as a tall, dark-haired British soldier rather than the short, blonde master of disguise turned terrorist for hire turned British agent like he really is in the books, but that's a whole other story altogether. Anyways, if you're weary of the overtly political tripe on display at your contemporary bookstores, I highly recommend finding a copy of this novel and checking it out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and share, don't forget to subscribe, and peace out.